Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Yusuf and today I'm talking to you on a very important aspect of the presentation skill. Presentation skill is very important when you want to share your ideas, your experiences and your findings with the rest of the members of your organization or the members of your class, for example. So presentation skills, if you know that there are different types of presentation, different parts inside a presentation, and you understand that what kind of language you might be using for engaging, getting your audience engaged, to listen to you properly, and to communicate, all right, to make your communication with them very successful. So in today's lesson we are talking about the different parts of a presentation skill, but most importantly today, the videotape is devoted to just the opening part of the presentation. What sort of language we might be using inside this opening, and how you can develop a tone, for example, for your presentation to engage your audience properly. Your audience needs a sort of connectivity with you, and that connectivity becomes possible if you understand that how you will open your presentation, what sort of language you might be using, and at the same time what kind of tone you will be adopting, and how you will go ahead with it. Okay, now let's see that the opening part has inside it the first one is you just say hello and hi, good morning, good afternoon, for example, the time of your presentation, and then at the same time you thank them. You say thank you very much for coming along here today, and then you describe the purpose of your presentation, and then you say that then you introduce the different parts inside your presentation, what you will be talking about the first time, the second the second part, what you will be talking in the third time finally, or at the third time, the third part of your presentation, what you will be talking about. So all these aspects, these different things you can do in the opening part, you can introduce, and you can say you can thank the audience in the beginning, and then you describe the purpose of your presentation, and then you describe say something about the different parts of your presentation, the first part, the second part, and the third part, right? At the end you can say, I will be very happy to invite you to ask questions at the end of the session, and you can also say at the end, I will be very happy to answer any of your questions. Okay, now let's read it together, this the opening part, the useful phrases for it. You can see here: ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along here today. The purpose of today's presentation is to discuss how we can, and I've invited you here today to have a look at my findings. This is the second way, and this one is the first one. The purpose of my today's presentation is to discuss how we can, and then you introduce that the topic, or what is the main highlight of your presentation. I have invited you here today to have a look at my findings, my research, for example. Then you introduce the three parts, 1, 2, 3, right? You say, now let me begin by saying something, introducing it. Okay, the first part of your presentation. The secondly, I will be talking. That means the body part. And finally, I will be wrapping up the presentation with these suggestions or recommendations, or different sort of advice, conclusion, for example. So here you have to say, at the end you would say, I will be very happy to invite you to ask questions at the end of the session, and at the end I will be very happy to answer any of your questions. This is the opening format, and useful phrases or language which you can adopt if you want to open a presentation, right? Okay, now let's see them actually in the actual presentation. Here the presentation might be about the business, and that's related to communication as it's mentioned here, this part. Okay, so now let's read how, for example, these different useful phrases are used here in this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along here today. I hope my presentation isn't going to take too long and that you will find it interesting. The purpose of today's presentation is to discuss how we can improve internal communications within our company. Now let me begin. Okay, let me begin. That's the introducing the first part of your presentation, what you will be going to do, right? All right. So the first part, now let me begin by explaining that I would like to talk about the business case for better communication. This is number one. Secondly, I want to cover different styles and methods, number two. And finally, I would like to finish off by talking about some of the basics we need to have in place to deliver good quality, consistent communications across the company, right? These are the three layers you introduced inside your opening part of the presentation. I will be very happy to invite you to ask questions at the end of the session, and I'm sure there will be plenty of time for us to discuss some of the points that have been raised. All right, so this is the way you have to speak in the opening session of your presentation, the opening part of your presentation. The other two parts, we will be making separate videos for them. That's the body part and the end part of the presentation. Okay, let's have a look at the second presentation. Okay, the second presentation, how this guy has used the language, the phrases here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for finding the time to come and join me for this presentation this afternoon. Okay, my name is Tim Masson, and I'm a retail consultant, and many of you will have seen me shadowing you in your jobs and looking through the accounts and so on in the company over the last week. I've invited you here today to have a look at my findings. First, I would like to have a look at the performance of the company, the sales of the company over the last 3 years. Then I would like to have a look at our market share in the women's wear market and look at our competitors. And thirdly, I would like to suggest some improvements in our range of women's wear. At the end, I will be very happy to answer any of your questions. So this is the way you have to open your conversation, the different ways, okay? And also don't forget that you have to be very careful because you have to take your audience engaged, both in communication, that's verbal communication, at the same time the paralingual, that means your physical gestures. Most importantly, your eye contact with each and everyone in the audience is really, really very important. All right, okay. So these are some of the tips I wanted to share with you. And another thing, the most important one, is your confidence. You have to be very confident, at the same time very clear, audible, and appropriate and correct. All right, and at the same time, you have like an engaging personality. You're engaging communication skill, and at the same time also you're emotionally, mentally, and physically available to your audience. Thank you very much.